Hello everyone, this is Suresh from Azure ADB. Today our topic is why we need to pass arguments like format equal to none and is underscore timestamp equal to false in a function. So we'll see this scenario. So first I'm importing required function here from PySpark.sql.functions as AF, and here I written one function here for this particular scenario. So my function name is data underscore function underscore ts. So here I passed these parameters. So one is df, that is a data frame, and column, and format equal to none, and is underscore timestamp equal to false. And inside that I given two conditions. So one is to convert a particular column by using to underscore timestamp, and by using to underscore date. So here I given two conditions. If you are mentioning the format, suppose if your column is timestamp, then if you are provided the format of that particular timestamp, then it will go to this if condition. Then to underscore timestamp will convert that particular column by using this format. If format is not mentioned, then it will come to else condition. So it will directly come to this one here to underscore timestamp will apply on that particular column. And second condition is same thing, same scenario for converting the date column by using to underscore date function. So we'll see in detail what is this function. So first thing is I given if is underscore timestamp. So that means if is underscore timestamp means if this is true, that means is underscore timestamp. If I provided here true, if it is true condition, then it will go into this if condition. If I mentioned is underscore timestamp equal to false, then it will come to else condition. So I assume that is underscore timestamp I provided as true, then it will come to this if condition. And in this, if format is mentioned, see here I mentioned format equal to none. So that means it will come to else condition. So here what it happened, by using to underscore timestamp on particular column, it will convert to timestamp. So here format is not mentioned. So since format is not mentioned, so our timestamp, this particular column should have default format. If it is a date column, that the date should have default format. And if it is a timestamp, that particular timestamp should have in default format. And if is underscore timestamp, if it is mentioned as false, then it will come to else condition. Then again condition is if condition. If a format is mentioned, then it will go to this condition. So this particular column, by using to underscore date function, we are converting to date by using format. So if date column, if it is in custom format, then we have to define the format here. So if a format is none, then it will come to else condition. So here by using to underscore date on this particular column, it will convert. So we'll see in detail about this function with the different scenarios. So first one is format equal to none. So this is optional. So a date or timestamp format string example. Suppose if your column is a date format, then you should be in this format. This is a default format. And if it is a timestamp, then you should be in this format, default formats. Okay, so if none, so that means if you mentioned format equal to none, then Spark will use its default formats. So what is this default formats is? Use this when your data is already in Spark's default expected format. So for in case of a date, if your column has dates, then those date formats should have default format like year, month, date. If it is a timestamp column, then it should be in default format. So that is year, month, date, hour, minute, second. So this is the meaning of format equal to none. So next we'll come to is timestamp. So here we mentioned is timestamp as false. So either it can be true or false. So that's why it is mentioned as Boolean type. So if we mentioned is underscore timestamp equal to false, then it means treat the column as date. If it is mentioned as true, then treat the column as timestamp. So next, if is underscore timestamp equal to true, then what it means? Treat the column as timestamp. So that means it will go to this if condition. If you see in this function, if is underscore timestamp equal to true. So that means this if condition. If is underscore timestamp, that means true. If it is true, then it will go to this particular block. Then what will happen? Uses to underscore timestamp to convert the column into timestamp type. If a format is provided, Spark parses using that format. If a format equal to none, Spark expects default timestamp format. So that is this one, year, month, date, hour, minute, second. So here what it means is, first we have if condition, if format. So that means if you provided format, then it will go to this if condition. In if condition, what will happen? So this particular column, by using to underscore timestamp, and we are providing the format. That means if your timestamp has in custom format, so other than this format, this is the default format. If your timestamp has other than this format, then we need to define the format here. By your format, it will convert this column into timestamp. So if a format is none, that is this one. If format is none, then it will come to else condition. So here what it will, this particular column by using to underscore timestamp, it will convert to timestamp. But since format is not defined, so that means it expects this particular column should be in default format. That means this format. So Spark will understand this default format. So without, so that no need to mention the format here. So that is the meaning here. And if is underscore timestamp equal to false. So this is the default case. So here, see if is underscore timestamp equal to true, then it will come to this condition. So now our condition is false, then so it will come to this condition, else condition. In else condition, again, what we have is if format. That means if we mentioned format, then it will go to this particular code. If format is not mentioned, then it will go to this particular code. So here what it does is, if format is mentioned, then this particular column by using to underscore date, it will convert to date by using this format. If a format is not mentioned, that means format equal to none, Spark expects default date format. So that is this one, year, month, date. So this particular column should be in default format. So that is this one. So now we saw different conditions. So format equal to none and is underscore timestamp. So in is underscore timestamp, we saw two conditions, true and false. So next we'll jump onto our scenarios. So first scenario is format equal to none and default timestamp format. So that means here format equal to none and default timestamp format means this is false. Okay, so false means what will happen if is underscore timestamp false means it will come to this condition, and since format equal to none, so that it will come to this condition. Okay, so here we'll see different ways we can write the code here. So while calling this function, so this function, this whole function, I am calling here this one data underscore fun underscore ts. So here this piece of code we can write in different ways. So this is data frame df. See here data frame df and our column my underscore ts. This is column, and here format. So if your format is none, so we can ignore that. No need to write here. It's not mandatory. So here it is not written. Here it is simply mentioned as none. Here it is mentioned as format equal to none. So you can follow either of the method. And is underscore timestamp equal to true. Okay, so here I try to mention this format equal to none. We can write in different ways. So now we'll jump onto our sample data set. So this is my data. If you see here, I have these timestamp values here. So this is my date and this is my hour. Okay, this is date and this is timestamp. So here it is in year, month, date, and here hour, minute, second. So here by using create data frame, I'm creating this. We have single column name that is my underscore ts. So here what I'm doing is I'm calling this function here. So whatever I return, this function I'm calling here. And here df means, so here df means this one, df underscore s, ts underscore nn. So that is my data frame. And what is the column name? This is this one, my underscore ts. That is the column name. And for format, what I'm giving is none. So since we mentioned here, format I'm considering as none for first scenario. So this already we discussed, we can write in any of the way. We can simply ignore that, or simply we can write none, or simply we can write format equal to none. And I'm mentioning is underscore timestamp equal to true. Now what will happen? If you see here, our input column is in string format. Okay, so our output, what we are getting is, see here, date, then we are getting t, and we are getting timestamp plus time zone. So this is hour, minute, second, millisecond, and time zone. So to underscore timestamp, it converting this particular format into this format. Okay, so when we explain by using this function, so if you see here, what is this default? This is data frame column format equal to none. So format equal to none and is underscore timestamp equal to true. So is underscore timestamp equal to true means it will go to this if condition. So if is underscore timestamp equal to true, it will go to this condition. Next, there are if and else's, sir. But what we mentioned format as none. So then it will go to this else condition. So when it go to a else condition, so to underscore timestamp on top of this column. Here, what is the column? My underscore ts. That means these values. So to underscore timestamp, it will convert this particular value into this timestamp format. So here we are not mentioned format because we mentioned format equal to none. Why? Because this already is in default timestamp format. So no need to mention the format. So after converting, see here we are getting timestamp. So initially it was a string, now it is timestamp. So same thing I mentioned here works fine because Spark expects this default format. Next, we'll go for other case, custom timestamp or milliseconds format. So custom timestamp means other than default format, other than default timestamp format or milliseconds format. See here, first we have date, and then we have t, then we have time here, and we have milliseconds, and we have plus time zone value is here. So here what I'm doing, I'm calling this function. In this function, what I'm doing is, so in earlier case, we mentioned format equal to none, but here I'm defining this format. Okay, so this we can mention as format equal to this one, or simply we can mention the format here. And is underscore timestamp equal to true here. So since is underscore timestamp equal to true, what will happen? Yeah. So first is underscore timestamp equal to true is there. So that means it will come to this condition, true. Next, what is there? We mention the format. So here we have two conditions, if format and else. Since format is mentioned, it will come to this one, if condition. In if condition, what is there? So we have two underscore timestamp and column name. So column name is my underscore ts. And this format we mentioned here, this format. So now two underscore timestamp, what will happen? What it does is it will convert this particular value into like this. So here we are mentioning this particular format. So this in detail explanation I given here below, but before that I give our input is in string format. After using two underscore timestamp, we are getting timestamp format, timestamp data type. So here what I'm trying to do is, so I'm taking first value of this one. So this particular first value, if you see here, up to here, this is the date and t, and this is time, up to here time, hour, minute, second, millisecond, then plus 530 is there. So that is time zone. So what it means is 5 hours and 30 minutes ahead of UTC. So if you convert this particular value into UTC, see here, this is time 12:30, 45, 1, 2, 3. So what we need to do is we have to minus 530. So this value will get. If you minus 5 hours 30 minutes, 12 minus 5, how much? 7. Okay, so 530, here we'll get 7. So here what it means in this particular value, this particular time is there, no? 12 up to here. So this is local time. But here it is mentioned plus 530 also. So this particular time zone plus 530 means that is Indian Standard Time. But here Spark follows UTC time zone. So this is our input data. While converting by using two underscore timestamp, Spark what it does is it will convert into UTC time zone. So that's why we are getting a different value from here and here. When compared to input, output we are getting different value. What it doing is it converting to UTC time, so it minusing 530 hours here. See, same thing I mentioned here. These are all our input values. Plus 530 is there. So if you convert to UTC and if you do minus 530, minus 530 to these particular values, we'll get UTC time. And you see here, all these values are getting changed. So next, I have this particular data frame. If you see earlier, we don't have T in between. See here, we have time zone up to milliseconds plus time zone. But here, this format is different. So here we have only date and time. And the two time is only hour, minute, second. So here also I mentioned same is underscore timestamp equal to true and format I mentioned. If you see earlier, I simply mentioned this format, but here I try to mention format equal to this one. So you can write any of the way. So now explanation is same. Since we mentioned is underscore timestamp equal to true, it will come to this condition. And since we mentioned format, it will come to if condition. And here to underscore timestamp on top of this column. And but it uses this particular format, that is this one, and it will convert to this value. And if you see here, 2025. If you take this particular value, 2025, 11, 11. See here, 25, 11, 11, T, and 16, 39, 55. So here we don't have milliseconds and time zone. But to 2 underscore timestamp, what it does is, it will give all the values. So hour, minute, second, milliseconds plus time zone. Okay, so initially it is in string format. After converting, it will come to timestamp data type. So you can verify later. So this input and this output. So next I'm creating one more data frame. If you see here, date is there, and in between I don't have T and I have time. So time I have only hour, minute, second. So here what I'm doing, same condition. So format I'm defining here. So here we have year, month, date, hour, minute, second. So here in between we're not mentioning T. So since is underscore timestamp equal to true, it will come to this condition. And again, since format is mentioned, it will come to this if condition. So explanation is same way it will work. And so only observe the output here. So even though we don't have T here, after using 2 underscore timestamp, see here 2025, 924, T we are getting in between, see T we are getting in between, and it is adding milliseconds plus time zone. Okay, so I'm trying to explain different input formats of timestamp and how you will get output. So next, our third case is my format I defined here, date format, and I'm mentioning is underscore timestamp either true or false. So here I created one data frame. If you see here, this particular column has date. So as of now, we discussed about timestamp values. So now I'm trying to explain about date values. So here date, year, month, date. So here what I'm doing, I'm calling this function, and this is my data frame, and this is my column, and here I'm defining format, year, month, date. And is underscore timestamp I'm mentioning as false. So why? Because so if I mention is underscore timestamp as false, then it will come to else condition. See here, is underscore timestamp equal to false. So if it is true means it will go to if condition. If it is false means it will come to else condition. Next, so format is defined here. So since format is defined, it will go to if condition. So here what is there with column 2 underscore date and this particular column, that is this one, my underscore ts, and format is defined. So that is this one, year, month, date. Okay, so Now what will happen? To underscore date, what it does is it will convert string of date into date format. See, output wise, you don't have any change, but if you see data type wise, initially it is a string. After converting, it become date. Okay, so next, same data set, year, month, date, and calling this function. So this is my data frame and this is my column. So here I am defining same format only, but here is underscore timestamp equal to true. So earlier I mentioned false. Okay, so here I am mentioning true. So now since it is true, what will happen? Okay, so is underscore timestamp equal to true. So since it is true means it will go here. If is underscore true means it will go to this if condition. And on top of that, we define the format. So that means it will go to if condition. In if condition, to underscore timestamp is there on column, this particular column. And format also defined here. What is the format? Year, month, date. So that means this particular date we are going to convert as timestamp by using to underscore timestamp. So our input is date of string. So that means our input is in string format. So date of string we are converting to timestamp value by using to underscore timestamp function. So I already made one video on to underscore timestamp to handle both the scenarios. So how to convert date of string into timestamp and uh, string of timestamp into timestamp. So here we have only date. So we don't have time here. So that's why we are getting here first date, then T, and we are getting all zeros. In time now, hour, minute, second, millisecond, all we are getting zeros, and plus time zone also we are getting zeros. Why? Because it going to this particular condition, and here we are using to underscore timestamp. So Spark adds default, that is these things, time, when only the date is provided. That means our input is a date. So next, we'll come to other scenario. So here format equal to none with only a date. So my input is same, date type. So here what is the difference is, in previous two scenarios, I mentioned the format, but here I'm not mentioning the format. And on top of that, I'm mentioning is underscore timestamp equal to false. So now what will happen? So first is underscore timestamp equal to false. So that means this one. So since it is false, what will happen? It will not go to this if condition. It will go to else condition. So that means here it will go to else condition. And on top of that, since it is mentioned format equal to none, it will go to this else condition. So here what is a to underscore date on this particular column, that is my underscore ds. So here what will happen, to underscore date, it will convert this string of date into date format. See here, we are getting same result. Only difference is here string, data type is string, and after converting, data type is date. So how it converting to underscore date without mentioning the format? Because if you're not mentioning the format here for to underscore date, Spark expects this particular date should be in default format. So that means year, month, date. Since our input is in default format, so no need to mention the format here. Suppose if this particular thing has in custom format, suppose like month, date, year, then you need to mention the format. You need to mention the format here so that it will go to this condition. So to underscore date, based on this format, it will convert to date type. So it depends on how we are mentioning here. So here this format is same, and only difference is format equal to none and is underscore timestamp equal to true. So earlier I given false condition. So now what will happen? Since I mentioned is underscore timestamp equal to true, it will go to this condition, if condition, and on top of that I mentioned format equal to none. So that means it will go to this else condition. So now what will happen? To underscore timestamp on top of this column. So that is my underscore ts. So but our input is date, string of date. Okay, so this string of date, what will happen? Now our condition is underscore timestamp equal to true. So and none. So here. So to underscore timestamp of this particular column. So date string, it will convert to timestamp value. If you see here, first we have date, whatever it is mentioned here. Since we don't have time, so T all zeros. So our minute, second, millisecond, and plus time zone. So here we are not mentioned format, but Spark, it expects this particular date will be in default format. So since this date is already in default format, so then no need to mention the format here. So same thing I mentioned here, if your date is in the default format. So default format is year, month, date. Then you can directly use this one. So to underscore timestamp on this particular column. So Spark, what it does is Spark assumes it has midnight, that is all zeros, because the date does not have time info. See here, my date input is date format, year, month, date. So it will convert to timestamp like this. So date and remaining time it will consider as all zeros. So now what is the summary? So if you mention format equal to none, it works only if column is already in timestamp format. So that is this. So either date format or timestamp format. So if you're mentioning format, then format equal to like this, year, month, date, or otherwise if it is timestamp, you can mention here date and time. So parses date or timestamp. Okay, time default is to midnight. So since format, so this condition is this one, this scenario is this one, about this one. And custom format. So if you are mentioning custom format, then we need to define the format here. So here I try to explain maximum all the scenarios possible here. So why we need to pass the arguments format equal to none and is underscore timestamp equal to true or false. So that's all about this video. If you really like this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you.